adventurers, I will open the gates to the yawning portal, but I have some questions first. To my many rogues, are you ready to use stealth as your greatest weapon? Fighters, are you ready to lead the charge? Druids, are you ready to become one with nature?
Yeah!
And the wizards, are you ready to learn the intricacies of magic?
Already know them.
I ask that you be brave, be bold, and have so much fun. I wish you all the best of luck.
Hey guys, what's going on? You are listening to This Week in Geek.net, and I'm your host, Mike the Birdman, and this is some special coverage that we're going to be doing for something involving, well, not exactly tabletop and not exactly LARPing either. What am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about the D&D Immersive experience that you can visit right now in Mississauga, Ontario, Canada, that is located right near Square One. Now, I actually got really fortunate that I was able to get in touch with some people over there, so big thanks to Gabby for helping set this up. And I wanted to bring some of my friends along with me, but they're not just friends, they're my party members. Some of them are rogues, some of them are rangers with guns, and other ones are warforged. But I want to welcome my D&D group, so without any further ado, we're going to go down the Discord list from top to bottom, and these guys will introduce themselves, and we'll kind of have our discussion about our experiences today. And there's our first bit of silence. So that would be, you go first there, Andy.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I'm Andy. I've been playing with Mike D&D for a couple of years now. We got introduced through a mutual friend, like parallel D&D groups, and now we play together pretty regularly.
Yep. And then going next down the list.
Yeah, hey, it's Calvin. Same deal, play with Mike on a regular basis, and Andy as well. Been playing with him for a couple of years, introduced through a mutual friend. Yeah, it's been great.
And then finally,
hi, I'm Shane. I've been playing D&D with Mike for I think just a little bit over a year now.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been playing D&D for about like 20 years. And also just as a note for what we experienced today, I do work at an escape room. So there's a little bit of interesting behind-the-scenes stuff that I'm considering with regards to this interactive experience, immersive experience.
Yes. So I had found out about this through Facebook and through Instagram, and I was interested, but I didn't really pay it any mind. But I noticed that it was coming to a close in just a couple of weeks here, and I'm thinking, you know what? If I missed a Marvel one, there was like a Marvel Cinematic Universe one that happened at Yorkdale a couple of years ago, and I missed out just because trying to get around as a disabled person is a big pain in the ass, to say the very least. So the opportunity presented itself to go to this thing, and I'm like, all right, I want to go to this thing, and I know the perfect group of people to come down with me and do this. So bringing my D&D group was a no-brainer here. And it hadn't occurred to me till I sat down with Shane today when we were all having coffee together, like, oh yeah, you know this stuff more so than most people because you actually work in an industry adjacent to the interactive experience sort of thing. So having your perspective as someone who works in escape rooms and knows sort of the design philosophy behind some of these games and interactive activities is a perspective I hadn't really considered, and I'm really glad that you came. So when all of us got together today, when we were sitting in the Starbucks across from the experience at Square One, we were all strategizing way too high level, I might add.
Yeah.
We're all like, okay, you've got spells. What can this do? The experience wasn't that deep, let's be quite honest.
In true
Yeah.
D&D party fashion, we spent way too much time talking and thinking about the problem before just going in and encountering it.
Yeah, so...
And I feel that kind of grounded my experience a little bit as far as what I was expecting, especially from the title, an immersive experience.
Mhm.
What it ended up being, what I was building in my mind was a series of activities and puzzles to solve that would allow us to use our party formation and strategize in a kind of like with an escape room, like larger puzzle solving and combat thing that we were going to be interacting with. And instead, we got a very well put together interactive gallery. I think is
Yeah.
probably the best way for me to
An
describe how
interactive
it was.
exhibit, if you will.
Exhibit, yes. Yes.
Yeah, because like what to give the company that put this on, I think it's Vibrant Studios. So what they do is they have this setup where you enter this space and you can choose your character class. You can choose from a fighter, a wizard, a rogue, and a druid. So some martial classes mixed in with some spellcasting classes, though no clerics, paladins, bards, warlocks, sorcerers, or any number of subclasses that just weren't here, which is fine. And it all operates by using these scannable RFID wristbands, which I thought was kind of neat. Although I did encounter a problem going in because of my Apple smartwatch, it kept setting off the RFID thing. So I wanted to be a druid because I play a druid in my private game with Shane. And I didn't get to do that. But fortunately, they had people dressed as harpers who were wandering around. And one of the harpers had said to me, well, you're not the first person this has happened to. Fortunately, I carry a couple extra on me. So this harper was able to have me act as a rogue, which is a character class I've only ever played once or twice in real life. I'm not much of a skill monkey. But druid's a class I've really taken to liking over the last year and change with Shane. But anyway, so the setup for the experience is this. You go in and you go into Waterdeep and you go into the Yawning Portal, which is a location in the Forgotten Realms that is above a entrance to Undermountain, which is another D&D location, this huge underground continent that just happens to be below a bar. And you are there to help there's a tiefling who owns the bar. I don't know if that's the actual barkeep from the thing. There's a wizard of some type and a druid from the Emerald Enclave, and you have to get some kind of a jewel back that has been taken. And then you then proceed into Undermountain, into the dungeon, and there it gets interesting. So, maybe I'll throw it to you, Shane. What were some of the exhibits that you saw there?
So I took notes. I have notes of all the exhibits that I saw. I only ended up missing 2, I believe. But before we go to the exhibit, the gallery itself, I kind of want to give a shout out to the tavern crew. For me, that was one of the big highlights. Was the dungeon master who kind of presented himself to us
Yes.
as our first impression, and then the actors who are giving, like, they're all, and they have to do this probably every like 20 minutes or so, giving that introduction, setting up the world, and the set design of that tavern space was fantastic. Definitely one of the highlights for me was that space.
Yeah, I was actually really surprised how enthusiastic people were for this whole thing. Like, it really feels like to be an actor in this kind of experience, like, I can't imagine someone who's not some kind of a dork working here, and I'm a former theater kid. We are all dorks. I really got a really warm vibe from everybody there. I really didn't get a sense from any of the actors that this was not just a job. I felt like this was a bit of fun for them.
Yeah, especially even the Harpers, like essentially the people in the gallery. I kind of want to call them like curators who are there to make sure you guys, like no one's having technical difficulties or anything like that. Even they were like in character throughout most of it. Some people more so than others, but none of them seemed to be like, oh man, another day at the office kind of thing. All of them seem to realize that they got to be in a really cool space. And I want to share some of that excitement with you. So.
Yeah, like I was pleasantly surprised how, like I said, it was such a welcoming environment. Even if there was a technical issue, they found a way to play it off in character. One of the Harpers I spoke to, like, oh, don't worry, ye old spell book is iOS 16. Just give it a second. And they kind of played that up. And I was, like I said, pleasantly surprised. And even going into the exhibit itself, because I originally went in there to be a druid, but it didn't work out the way that I wanted to. There's one of them that was like this huge magic mushroom thing, but it had a myconid hidden inside of it with this interactive light show thing, which very much has echoes of Baldur's Gate 3 baked into it. And I thought that was really kind of clever how they would do things like that. But yeah, go ahead.
And that is what we were talking. Segue into talking about the exhibits themselves. That is
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
first exhibit that you were greeted with upon entering the quote unquote dungeon, which is again more of like a gallery space, right? Because the tavern is done up like a tavern. Everything is nicely set, decorated, right, kind of all the way around, like floor to ceiling. And then you enter kind of the gallery space, and it's a little bit more kind of open concept. As far as where things are kind of placed. So you initially come out, and the first thing you see is a giant mushroom. I didn't interact with that, so you want to kind of go into more about anyone who did interact with the mushroom. Want to kind of go into what that is like.
Yeah, what did somebody see? Because I couldn't get my head up that high because of my wheelchair. So
It was essentially just it was a little space that was full of mirrors and lights with little like fungi monsters, if you will, inside. So like when you put your head up in, you were kind of surrounded by these things, and they were making all this noise, and there was a little bit of a light show going on as well. It was a neat little thing, but there wasn't a whole lot to it aside from that. But
Yeah,
as
it
an
was this
introductory kind of like here's kind of the vibe of what's going to be happening. It was okay. Low barrier to entry to kind of get you warmed up into here's how you scan your RFID tag, and like yes, you have to interact with it by putting your head into it and stuff like that. So yeah, I feel like it serves its purpose as kind of the first Goomba in the level, if you will, training you how you're going to interact with the exhibit going forward.
mm-hmm.
yeah,
One of
I
the
got
other
the
one
same.
oh
I got
sorry, Andy, go ahead.
Yeah, I got the same kind of vibe as Calvin. I was just really using that mushroom exhibit to like, okay, this is how you scan your RFID. This is the exhibit. Stick your head in. There's this kind of kaleidoscope of mirrors going on in there as
Mhm.
well, which I thought was really cool. And just understanding like this is kind of like the first, if you like, puzzle of like the open gallery that we're talking about. And there's a whole bunch of them that you can go through, and it's really any order you can take them in. So like the mushroom is the first one, but then you can go left and you get like this. Uh, there was one with like locks and keys, and if you go to the right, there's like the path over the lava and other kinds of exhibits like that.
Mm-hmm. One of the ones that was the most interactive and definitely one of the most visually striking, I'd say. You fight a monster known as a roper, which is this like cave dwelling creature that looks kind of like a stalactite, like it can hide on the ceiling or hide on the floor. And how you defeat it is you have to punch these pressure pads as they light up, as if you're blocking its many tentacle attacks. Now, one of the cool things they did is certain character classes have advantages on certain ones like this. Like I think the roper was meant for a fighter, I want to say. Um but there's another one where you would do a wizard spell, and instead of throwing firebolt, which is a cantrip, you could actually use a level 3 spell lightning bolt, and the spell movement with your RFID tag that would be picked up would be a lot simpler as opposed to the more intricate somatic hand gestures you would have to kind of do for it.
I'll say the lightning bolt one. I didn't even realize I did it as I was playing a wizard. I was like, oh, I guess I did that thing. Oh, okay. Um,
Like, yay, I won. Um,
yeah.
One of the other ones that I thought was interesting, and I was really worried I couldn't do some of this because I'm in a wheelchair, and this is where I have to get a tiny bit negative, and it's not so much the fault of this particular exhibit because this is the same exhibit that goes city to city, so it's no fault of the Mississauga crew, but some of these experiences were not accessible to me, and that's just due to the nature of their design. However, the Harpers who were there with me kind of found a way around that. They're like, "Oh, I see you fought a dragon before." I'm like, "Yeah, but I don't have access to the regeneration spell yet." And then another another couple that was beside me. So I'm going with the Harper, and I'm like, well, I'm just going to use the fly spell and just get over this. And like,
Oh,
well,
that's
that
what
worked.
happened.
Yeah.
I like that.
So they're like, okay, cool. So I still got the experience points. And that's something else to mention too. Whenever you do an activity, depending on how quickly and how accurately you do an activity, you get points and you get awarded XP, which then will tie into something that happens a little bit later in the exhibit. So there was a yeah.
No, go ahead. No, keep going with that. That's
Yeah. So the exhibits that I saw, I'm just going to list off the ones that I remember. There was the Myconid, there was the Roper, a gelatinous cube, which was surprisingly, I was very surprised that I could get in there, but there's like a dissolving skeleton in there, which is pretty cool. There was the wizard cantrip thing. There was a encounter with a beholder, and you had to dodge the eye beams, which was very much like Dungeons and Dragons Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
I actually talked to one of the Harpers. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. So they're like, well, try your best. Maybe take off your hat. So I did. So I just said, fuck it, and just punched it right to the front there. And I was able to dodge a lot of the beams, surprisingly. So I got my magic daggers from this thing. There was a puzzle that was sort of like a lava pit, so not quite like Indiana Jones in The Last Crusade, where you had to jump on the different blocks, but you had to cross this pit of lava, and within certain activities they would hide a passphrase you had to give to the Harpers to proceed to the next section of the experience. My favorite one should probably come to nobody's surprise, whereas one where you had to pet a giant owl bear. And I had a feeling if I was a druid, it would have been remarkably easy, because they actually do mention in the beginning of the experience, shows you what your character class is good at. And one of my abilities was speak with animals. So what you had to do on this giant owl bear is you had to pet it and look for a sensor. When you found the sensor, the owl bear's eyes would flutter and it would purr for you. So that was really cool. There was also this intellect devour sort of light repeating puzzle, and you had a couple tries at it, and it would say, "Oh, your memories are delicious. Feed us more." And I'm thinking, all right, that was creepy and fucked up, but also very cool. What else? Oh, there was a mimic one, which when I saw Shane do it, you got it almost immediately.
Yeah.
It took me like another minute and a half after you, because I figured, oh, I'll just watch where Shane puts the key. And it wasn't the same one that you did. So I'm wondering if it randomizes.
Oh, it did shuffle. I
Yeah.
was wondering if it did. Okay, because I kept putting the key in the same slot and it kept activating. So I'm like, okay, well, it's always going to be the same thing, I guess. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, good. It has a shuffle mechanic. Okay.
Yeah, because I was like, why isn't this working? And
Perfect.
so eventually it went off, and this mimic treasure chest just pops up and roars at you. I'm thinking, oh, did I lose? Because getting a mimic is typically a bad thing, but whatever.
Yeah.
Trying to think what else. I think that was all of them.
One more. Speak with
Dead.
that.
The Speak with Dead.
That one I missed.
The one that you missed, yeah.
Yeah. And Speak with Dead is just like a fun little, like, it's like an Easter egg. You scan your bracelet, and based on the class that you are, one of the 3 skeletons in the coffins comes to life and kind of just like jibs at you a little bit. It's nothing useful. If it gives you EXP, it's not a kind of task that probably would, because there's no necessarily skill involved, but maybe it does just for the fact of doing it. But yeah, it's like skeleton wakes up, it's like, hey, you, what are you doing here? You're a sorcerer, you're a wizard, I see. Can you like help me find like my like where I put my slippers or whatever kind of thing, right? Like just a little comedy joke that like makes like a talking skeleton like move its mouth a little bit with a little bit like a speaker sound. Like that.
Yeah, I think it asked me if I was as a rogue in the experience. It asked me if I had like stolen a chicken because it was hungry or something. Famished.
Yeah.
Famished. So
that's cute. I mean, and so after you do all these experiences, you then have to speak a passphrase to the Harpers to proceed to the next stage and fight the actual dragon, which I'm not telling you the passphrase, but it's not hard to figure out. But I'm just going to say this. Thank God Shane was there, because I wouldn't have got it. In fact, I think you had it in the first like 5 minutes.
I did. I saw one.
Yeah.
I saw one word. There's one word on the roper that as soon as I saw,
Yeah.
I'm like, it's got to be this, right?
Yeah.
And we kind of
Same,
like
same.
conferred. Who was it I conferred with on that? Was
That was me, and I was
was you, yeah, you
slightly
go.
off. I had the right idea, but the wrong exact words, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. And I
Yeah.
did the same thing. And I'm like, okay. And then I went over to another one, and I saw the one where like that's it. And actually, when the Harpers came over to me, I'm like, I did the thing. I'm like, okay, cool. He's like, yeah, but did you see the hidden word? I'm like, no, actually, I totally missed that. And I saw, I'm like, and that was the word that I needed to get it. I'm like, there it is, got it.
So yeah,
Yeah,
so
Actually, yeah. I was trying to keep an eye out for the hidden words, and so I saw the one on the roper. There was one in the cube. And
There was. I missed the cube.
yeah,
Sorry,
and
spoilers for anyone that's going to go do this thing. We're totally telling you where the words are, but
oh
anyways.
yeah, that's true. That's true. But to be honest, those two they're not hard to find if you just keep your eyes open. You will see them. You just got to know to look out for words. Yeah,
Harpers will help you out
too.
if you're really looking for it.
I actually didn't see the one. I think there was one in like the lava pit area, but I never saw it.
Yes,
because I feel like it actually like even on some of the signs, it makes mention that there's like it gives you like a clue essentially to keep your eyes out for a code word, and I feel like it said that on the lava pit area, but I just decided to go for speed on that one for fun and was not paying attention. So
it is there. Unfortunately, Mike, you wouldn't have been able to see it because it's on it. You can only see it from being on top of the blocks, not from being on the side of it.
Yeah, so
I missed that on the lava pit because I was afraid of like losing my footing. Like it's not a difficult challenge of walking over the blocks, but like if you're not used to like looking down, 3 feet up, it's like
they're hard plastic. If you slip, you're getting knocked on your chin a little bit.
But you're gonna have a bad time. But yeah, I mean, I'd say overall, from an accessible standpoint, most of the activities are pretty accessible friendly. There are ones that, like I mentioned, you simply can't do, like the aforementioned blocks and maybe the myconid, but that's even if a wheelchair user was partially ambulatory, you could probably do it. And my wheelchair sits up higher than most, so I was able to get my head partially inside of it. But one thing to just kind of touch upon that as well, the build quality of all these exhibit pieces is really well done. This does not look cheap at all. This looks like there was some serious money put into this. I was really impressed with the sculpting on the roper. The owl bear is wonderful. I could think of maybe a few things I would do if this was a more permanent installation as opposed to a traveling show. But in terms of authenticity to the D&D world, it really does feel like it. Like the beholder, how well that was lit up. There's one picture that Blair took of all of us, and the way that the lighting is very striking in there, you get some awesome shadow play in there. Like I think a professional photographer would really have a blast in there, which is something we noticed as of this recording. I found out today, I was wondering, why are there so many people dressed up today? Turns out there was a contest going on today that I just didn't know about. Yeah. And you could get this like little limited edition Presto card, which we were able to get anyway. So thanks, guys. But yeah, I was like, all right, that's pretty neat. So always keep an eye out to the Instagram or the Facebook for this. There is a contest going on right now with Toronto Comic-Con, so you can probably win some passes and some trips to the experience as well before it closes during the March break. So after we gave the Harpers the passphrase, we had a chance to go combat the dragon. Now, I was not able to participate in this because of the way that it's set up, but I was able to sit back and watch it, and I'm kind of glad I got a chance to do this. So for those of you that fought this mighty beast, how did that experience go for you?
I think that was my least favorite part of the entire experience. Yeah, those kind of like cheesy, already put together like videos, and like we definitely felt like we were encountering some technical difficulties in that spot. You have to make like a motion to do an attack and another motion to defend yourself. And like for the defense, who knows? There seemed to be a shield there every time, but it was for our entire group. So was it just one person that was working? And then for the attacks,
I think the shield is just an effect. Honestly, I
Yeah.
think it's a pre-recorded scene that plays the exact same way every time, and you just get to throw some fairy dust at the screen essentially to make cool particle effects occur.
that was exactly what I kind of got from it.
And all the EXP and tasks that we did to lead up to it didn't mean much of anything into it, and all the EXP was invisible anyways.
Yeah. So I feel like there could have been so much more, or at least like if we knew for sure that what we were doing was having an effect, it would be real nice. Some kind of feedback, essentially, during the dragon fight. That was
There's not. But the
there's something there's something that was mentioned actually, and the Harper made kind of a comment about this. She starts asking Andy, "What's your favorite melee weapon?" And when you get to the Beholder, you actually steal a pair of magic daggers. Now, to add to what Calvin was saying, to get some sort of feedback, wouldn't it have been cool if during the experience you were gathering weapons, and if that weapon was tagged to your ID badge, that would appear on the screen, and that could affect the outcome of the fight.
Totally.
Now, it's possible that was working because the wizard. I mean, one of the things that was in the experience is if you did the wizard task, which was the spell casting one, it did say it upgraded from firebolt to lightning bolt or whatever, right? So I wonder if, as a wizard, if you did that, maybe you got a different particle effect, right? Like if you say you didn't do the lightning one, because I think I saw yours go off once, Shane, and it was a lightning.
It was lightning, yes.
Yeah. So I wonder if you didn't do that task, maybe it would be firebolt instead, right?
Yeah, and I expect that would be the case, and it would have been cooler if mine had worked more than it did.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that man, this this whole thing takes place in the Palladium space, and it reminds me back in the day they had a thing where you would have motion control Tekken that worked on the most rudimentary motion sensor ever of just like you would flail your arms and maybe your character would kick. Right?
Yeah.
You would crouch and maybe register you were crouching because it was just a single square with lasers on it recognizing where you were going. This is that same kind of motion detection. But that got me thinking of how much further we've come since then as regard in gaming, such as like the Kinect. I miss the Kinect was such an amazing marvel of motion technology kind of thing that this could have benefited from because there's no calibration for us setting up to fight the dragon. And or even a Wiimote that has like a infrared sensor on it as well that can allow you to have a more precise range of motion. And if you hid a Wiimote sensor in a weapon tag for us to then do something with, a wand, a staff for the druid, daggers for the rogue, a sword or something for the fighter, right? If you had this in a weapon that when you kind of move around a little bit gives you a little bit additional precision or feedback even to what you're doing, that could be cooler than flail in front of a motion center and hope something happens.
Yeah, I totally agree.
100%. So after you defeat the dragon, you are then escorted down a hallway. You then return to Waterdeep, where you're greeted by a rather enthusiastic market vendor.
I love that guy. His voice was going hoarse throughout the entire day. He's gonna have 15 lozenges, but he was great.
He really was. So at the end of the experience, you then have someone scan your ID bracelet and then keeps track of the points or the XP that you have gathered. Now, I actually happen to have Blair's card in front of me. So how the XP chart breaks down is if you get 10 to 19 points or 1,000 points, you're considered a Master of Arms. If you get 20 to 34, you're an Armored Vanguard. If you get 35 to 49, you are considered a fight strategist, and if you get 50 plus, you are considered a field commander. And
Yeah, now
that
that's specifically for the fighter because each class had their own kind of breakdown of different ones.
oh,
The
okay.
rogues were
Titles.
different. Yeah.
Yeah, your
Okay,
Chivos.
I haven't looked at I think I still got mine. Maybe it's in my bag. But yeah, so that then allows you to go up to the marketplace vendor, and this nice young lady will give you so many rolls of a 20-sided die, which then determines what your discount is at the merch store. And my wife Blair was able to successfully roll a natural 20, which actually came in very handy today. And then you would go into this
They
market.
ring a bell for the natural 20 and get all excited and stuff.
Yeah.
I rolled double 19s, which was still fun, but
Yeah, I rolled a 5 with my right hand, and like the enthusiastic EXP tallier guy was like, "Oh, you're not so great at wizardry, are you?" I'm like, "Let me switch it up to my left hand." And then I rolled like a 15. He's like, nice tripling spell there, sir. Might you teach me how to do it on my wallet?" Kind of.
yeah. The comment he made to
Really
me when I
enthusiastic. Love that guy.
when I rolled double 19s is he's like, "Is this some rogue sleight of hand trickery?" And I did. And he seemed on the ball because there was another group behind us that I happened to hear. And then the person also had 2 dice rolls. And on the first one, they rolled a 7, and they're like, "Hey, that's a good sign. It's a lucky number." And on the next roll, it was like a 13. He's like, "Still good. That's my lucky number." So like this guy was, just again to throw it back to how good the actors and were in the exhibit. Like just on the ball, clever, funny, and very welcoming. Yeah, that guy was a hoot.
Mm-hmm. So once you come into the marketplace, there's a few more display pieces. There's the head of a dragon mounted. You can get your picture taken with. There's the crystal heart, which is the item you've been questing after, is placed in the middle of the bar. And then there's a huge marketplace, which I will say this, I was very surprised because I own literally every single D&D 5th edition book currently in print. I was surprised how many of them they had. I even saw a few alternate covers there, which was surprising. I saw the alternate artwork and box set for the deck of many things. I saw a lot of icons of the realm. Blair had to talk me out of buying the Tarrasque.
Yeah, I saw the Tarrasque.
I was like, this is so cool. I want it. But I was
they had 2 different cookbooks.
Oh yeah, they had Heroes Feast and Feast of the Multiverse or something like that.
Something like Tastes of the Multiverse, I think. Yeah, something like that anyway.
And like again, I was just pleasantly surprised because they had everything from 2014 except for the player's manuals. Everything that was in there is compatible with the 2024 rule set. I saw a Dungeon Master's guide there, player's handbook, which I think you bought, Andy, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I got the player's handbook there. I'm just a fan of physical books, and I've been playing D&D for a few years, but I don't actually, before today, I didn't actually have a player's handbook. So, I've been working on borrowed stuff and the online manual of D&D Beyond. So, but like physical books, it's just a nice keepsake for me.
Although it is a shame because we are playing 5th edition, so it's the wrong player's handbook for what we're actually playing. But
yeah, they
if part of the reason for this exhibit is to get people to buy merch, it's very successful in that because you get the discount on the gift shop. You get, after you do the entire gallery experience with these really like high level production sculpts and statues and whatnot, and you go in there and you see this like gorgeous looking gift shop that you now have a discount on. I think it's very good at kind of encouraging you to buy that merch. Or if you're again a Mississauga suburban knight, you've never played D&D, but you kind of went out because your friends dragged you out to this thing, maybe you'll end up picking up something. Maybe it will be that thing that kind of gets you into the hobby just because you hung out in this little gallery for a little bit.
Yeah, you pick up like the starter set or whatever like that. And same thing, to be honest, because we talked a little bit after the experience about how good it would be for families. Like to me, it really felt like a great experience that you could bring kids. I would say between like, I don't know, optimal age is maybe like 7 to 12 kind of range. I think would get the most kick out of it. And that's kind of like the perfect age where it's like, okay, maybe your kids don't play D&D, but you want to get them into D&D. Bringing them to something like this to like see like, hey, this is kind of what D&D is about. And then if they're into it at the end, being like, okay, yeah, we'll buy the starter set and we'll like go home and actually start playing. I think that in general is a great kind of like target for what this event has in store.
Yeah, and the kids' imaginations can be able to kind of fill in some of the blanks of like the gallery space into like, wow, like this owlbear is huge, actually.
Yeah.
Right. And kind of be thinking about that long after the experience, as opposed to like D&D fans who already kind of know what they're looking for, kind of thing, are just going to see nicely represented sculpts. Right.
Big group of jaded adults going in there and saying like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think like just to kind of like circle back around to throw in general, I had a fantastic time just in general. I thought it was great. I thought, like we've echoed on everything, the window dressings, like the setting and the actors and all of that stuff was great. Visually, it was amazing, and really fun, and the people involved are great. Yeah, and I definitely echo the kind of experience where it's like, okay, this is just a gallery. I think it would have been cool if it could have been set up, as you said very early on, Shane, as more of a dungeon crawl where we had to progress through a series of challenges and with an actual some kind of challenge at the end to the dragon fight that was like actually felt interactive with feedback. In terms of the store, again, beautiful. The bar area was super cool as well, which I don't think we've mentioned yet. The
had dry ice on one of the drinks.
The themed food was fantastic. There was like a treasure box of popcorn that had some gold coins in it, gelatinous cube Jello molds, like just
Jello
so
shots.
nice, like so good. Jello shots, yep,
that's
so
what
good.
I had.
To be honest, my biggest gripe with the store, and this is just again me being like not a avid collector of trinkets, is I didn't see anything that jumped out to me as something I wanted to buy. I actually went in there wanting to buy something and didn't find anything that kind of hit a sweet spot for me for portability and price point. Now that being said, I'm fairly picky when it comes to things like pins. I don't just buy a pin because it's related to something I like. It has to actually be visually appealing to me. And they had some pins that maybe other people were like all over and stuff, but they weren't my thing. I would have loved to have walked in there and saw a wall of pins that was just for character classes, for example. I think would have been a really easy, inexpensive like product to have. And it doesn't have to be just the character classes that are involved in the experience, but like all of them throughout all of D&D. So that when you walk out into the store, you buy your character class pin. Like that just to me seemed like a no-brainer. And I was actually very surprised that it wasn't there because I was fully expecting to be able to walk out of the experience and buy something like that. So
yeah, you're right. And there aren't any exclusives really in there either.
It didn't feel like
really surprised me, actually.
Yeah. I was like, to be honest, the one thing that I was going to buy was like a t-shirt, and they're out of all the sizes except for extra small and small. And I'm not a huge guy to begin with. Then the fact that I still couldn't get a shirt is like give me a break. So I was a little disappointed just in the actual product selection. But
in terms of what was there,
I may not be exactly the perfect target audience because, like, in this day and age, and with the life that like I've got going on, being so busy all the time, I'm down to like online D&D all the time, and I don't have space for trinkets and stuff. My house is full of kids' toys and junk like that from having 3 boys. So unfortunately. I can accept that maybe I'm not the perfect target audience here, but like just the fact that there was like nothing grabbed me. It was almost disappointing. I came in there wanting to spend money.
You are the target audience for this shop because again, like if
Yeah.
they have like a $400 Tarrasque there for
Yeah.
like a Mississauga Suburbanite gallery like exhibit, right? Like if someone wanted to buy the Tarrasque, they would go to their local game store to get it, right? Not like the gift shop is meant to be the ooh ah. If you're not into D&D, here's the thing, like already, but there's so much high price point stuff that you needed to be able to have more things at the low price point for the entry level person or the kids who were just encountering D&D for the first time in this visual medium.
Yeah,
Now,
like,
that being
I
said,
saw-
they did have a nice little section that had like pencils and stickers and things like that. That I think if you're a parent coming with your kids, like that's where you're gonna
Yeah.
find your stuff. But like that's what I mean is like for me where I'm so particular about stuff for myself, and that like if I'm gonna buy something, I'll go out and buy it myself too. So like I needed something that was exclusive and like, but also not like break the bank exclusive or not some huge thing. And it just felt like there was just a gap, if you will, in their product offering, and I dropped directly into that gap.
Now, that's something to actually kind of mention too. This place is only accepts cards. I did not know that. I came with
Mhm.
cash. When it came to the stuff that I bought, I like collecting backpacks for my wheelchair. It's just sort of my thing. So I bought a D20 shaped backpack, which Beaker has now decided that's his now, and he lives in
That
it.
thing is great.
Uh,
If I ever had use for a backpack, I would have bought one. But again,
Yeah. I bought myself a set of dice, which there's a killer set there that actually Calvin found for me. It's at the $30 price point. It comes in a nice deluxe case. The dice are huge, really high contrast, so their visibility comes with a pencil and a case and a character sheet. I also bought a notebook. I also bought one of each of the pins, but I didn't get the one that I'm missing. So I'm missing the War Duke from Pinfinity. So I might find that online at some point. I also bought most one of everything for the foods. They have these really cool beholder cake pops, which are pretty awesome. So maybe
those
I'll
are
dig into
cool.
those.
I
dig into
like
those
the
more.
I think my favorite of the food offerings was the owl bear cupcake. That thing was
Yes.
adorable.
I think it was cute. But yeah, I mean, overall, it was a really fun experience. I'd say I'd rate this a
Oh,
pretty
yeah.
solid 7.5 to an 8. If you're a D&D fan, absolutely, this is worth going to. However, if I did have one minor asterisk to all this, go with a group. Going by
Yes.
yourself would not be very
Yeah.
fun, I think.
No.
But if you could go with your adventuring party, which we did, it was a lot of fun because we were all strategizing. Like, we were like, okay, Andy, what's going on here? Shane, what is the plan? In fact, I'd even argue today Shane was the party leader, I would argue. And yeah, like, it was a great time.
You kind of split the party though because of like the activities that exist. You kind of go like ooh shiny.
Yeah. I think that traveling around the exhibit as a group and like everybody standing around while you take turns doing each individual one I think that would detract from the experience as well. I think it's much more fun to like kind of split up, run around, do a couple things, come back. Oh, did you do this one? Did you do that one? And then you can kind of go around with each other and do a couple as well. So it's a little bit of both.
Oh,
But,
yeah. But like, overall, it's a fantastic experience. So please go visit this experience. It is down in Mississauga, right by Square One. I'll actually pull up the address right now so you can see it is. But I will make sure Alex links to this officially in the event here, or on the website rather. So if you want to go visit this event, it is in Mississauga, Ontario, Canada, and it is located at 99 Rathburn Road West in Mississauga. That is postal code L5B4C1. It is right by a Go bus stop, which is how Shane got there. So it's really easy to get to via transit.
ample parking as well. If you're driving in yourself. Yep.
And there is a
also,
coat check.
Yeah, there's a coat check, and there's Mississauga Transit. My Way goes into there as well. If you're municipal, you already know where Square One is. You probably know where Palladium is. Otherwise, it's Square One Station on the go routes, and it's a lot of different go buses that can go by there. So there's, if you can find access to a go bus, you probably have a way to get there.
Yeah, so it's super easy. There are multiple levels of the experience. You can get like a bit of a discount, a bit of swag. So yeah, just go there, guys. Check this out. This closes in just a couple of weeks. Highly recommend that you do check that out. So once again, big thanks to Gabby for helping us put this together. It was fun to have an adventure with my adventuring party together in real life, where I'm not trying to kill them with moo death cows. And if you know what I'm talking about, Catobleepus, the most deadly creature of all time. So anyway, guys. So anyway, guys, I really appreciate you guys coming on the show here. So for This Week in Geek, we have been...
I'm Andy.
Calvin.
I'm Shane.
And I've been Mike the Birdman, saying, well, as I typically say on each of these shows, be excellent to each other. We'll catch you guys again next time, right here on thisweekingeek.net.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.